morning, everyone. We are, as you noticed, just getting started. We've got the recording going on, and our committee chair, Devon Holt, is just logging on. Perhaps we'll give it maybe another minute or so for more people to log on before we dive right in. So just hold tight, and we appreciate your patience. I would also encourage everyone, particularly if you're on the video, to check your name in the box. Make sure you're showing up as you want to be showing up. I noticed some people, it just says iPhone or Galaxy Tab. We really do want to make this interactive and engage you. If you go into your window, the three dots at the top right, and click on that icon, it should give you, or it may give you an option to rename yourself. If not, we'll work around it. Let's see, we've got 16 people in so far. Okay, yes, and this is the West End Opportunity Partnership Committee for Board Development, and that is to seat the nine. You can barely hear me, okay? So hopefully I'll try to speak up, and I don't know, my
I
computer's
can hear you
probably
pretty good, Gina.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's something on the other end of but you're coming through crystal clear on my end.
Okay, great, because I am probably overdue for an upgrade on my laptop. So bear with me here. Okay, looks like we've got about 18 people in, and we'll go ahead and get started. Here's a snapshot of what we plan to cover today with the limited time that we have. I'm available to stay on a little longer than the hour that we have scheduled if there are things that people want to follow up with, but we'll try to be efficient and as thorough as possible through this process. And so, with that, I am going to turn it over to Mr. Devon Holt. I will make a note that Jennifer Hancock, one of our board members, will be joining a little later. Celine has an emergency that she's tending to, and so she will not be able to join us today. And Dr. Smith has some official duties that he has to handle, so he will not be joining us today. So that's what makes the recording so great. And Rita, you had a comment?
Yes, I would just like to, I put it in the chat, a few notes in the chat, and I would just like everyone who is part of the committee, which is Gina and Devon, it seems like right now. And if you are here for the orientation as a volunteer neighborhood nominator, those individuals should unmute. Anyone that is just on as a guest to observe, I'm asking that you please mute. We are honoring the public meeting notifications. And so rather than mute everyone, I just thought I'd make that announcement this morning. Thank you, and again, welcome.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you, Rita.
All right, so Devon, please.
Gina, thank you, and thank you for getting us started and up and running this morning. And I want to thank everybody for making time on this Saturday to be with us. We are at a pretty critical juncture for the West End Opportunity Partnership, and it's now at a place where we're ready to get the 9 other board members identified and selected this month. And that will give us the opportunity as the West End Opportunity Partnership Board to officially begin to operate. I know there's been a lot of talk about this board, and people have questions and concerns and comments about what's happening. But the reality is there's been no official business conducted other than minor and simple administrative responsibilities. But until we are fully established as a board, which means bringing on the other 9 members, we can't begin to do much of anything as a board. And so this process is one that we wanted to make sure included the community. We had a lot of conversation about how to select these 9 board members. If you guys remember the process, the governor and, well, essentially the governor appointed a good number of us, along with some other identified agencies in the community to serve on this board. But then they, based on the legislation, the statute required that this board develop a process to identify the 9 remaining board members who will come from the 9 respective West Louisville neighborhoods. And so we had to create this process. There wasn't one that was given to us. We had to walk our way through this process and try to figure out what was the best way to identify these 9 remaining board members. And for us, we decided that we didn't want to have that responsibility solely rest on our shoulders. We felt like it was extremely important for us to have the community involved in this process. And so we created this platform where we would identify neighborhood nominator groups who would vet the applications that come in from their respective neighborhoods of people who want to serve on this board, and then offer their recommendations as community members back to us about who they felt best could represent their communities. And so that's where we are in this process. And we're thankful that you guys are joining us as we prepare for this next phase in this work. Gina is going to work with you and talk with you through the process that we're going to get to in order to make that happen. But before we do, I just want to recognize those who've kind of been in the trenches doing this work, namely Gina Dunlap, who also serves as our co-chair of the West End Opportunity Partnership Board, but has been doing a lot of heavy lifting for this particular committee. And so I thank Gina for what she's doing to help keep us organized and moving forward. Jennifer Hancock, as you guys heard, is going to be joining us a little later. She's also a part of this committee and serves as the president of Volunteers of America. Dr. Frank Smith, who is also a pastor here in town and serves as one of the leaders at Simmons College of Kentucky, is also a part of this board. And Celine, and I'm going to apologize because I can't pronounce, so I don't know how to pronounce Celine's last name, but she is on staff at the Urban League and has also been a great help for this work that we're doing to frame up these neighborhood nominators in this selection process. And so we've been working through a process to get you guys engaged and involved. And that process now is coming to fruition today. And again, Gina is going to share with you a lot more details about how we do that. I do want to recognize that we started off with the need to identify non-neighborhood nominating committees. And we started soliciting members from the community. Many of you on here today have responded positively to that. And we thank you for that and don't take your time for granted. We did, however, run into some issues identifying members in different communities. And so instead of having non-neighborhood nominating committees, we've merged a few of them and are going to have 7. So there'll be 2, actually 4 neighborhood nominating groups that merge. 2, I believe Algonquin and what's the other one? Algonquin and California, I believe are 2 that are going to be merged. and let me make sure I'm saying this right, Park Hill and Parkland are also, we've asked you to merge as nominators and review applications together. And so that'll be a great help to us so that we can keep the neighborhood members engaged and involved in this process. So that's where we are today. You guys are here to help us through that process. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Gina to help us understand what is to be expected of these nominating committees.
Thank you, Devon, for that context setting. And I'm going to take a bit of liberty with the order of the agenda and maybe start with the overview of what got us here and then go into
Sure.
discussing the various committees to make sure that we're all on the same page. So let me start here. So just to give you an overview of the timeline, what we've been up to since early December, as Devon laid out, recruiting people from community to vet the applicants, in community for their respective neighborhoods. We have fallen short in terms of the level of participation that we wanted. And at one point, we had thought about even having three nominees potentially, competing for each neighborhood. But right now, given the level of response that we've gotten and the time pressures that we're under to get everyone seated on the board, we are asking the neighborhood nominating committees to submit one nominee from this process. Now, hopefully, most of you have gotten a packet to follow along with while we're in this meeting. I'll speak more on that in a moment. But today's the day where we're kicking off and giving you everything that we hope you need and can utilize to help us through this process. So as of Friday, February 25th, we had some 64 submissions. Here you could see there were several candidates and we had some board members that helped us test the system that showed up as other, right? There was also at least one applicant that withdrew their application from the California neighborhood. And then through a very, I guess, systematic process, once we looked at the physical addresses of people that had submitted and, stated the neighborhood that they identify with, we found that actually, based on their location and city boundaries, that they were in different neighborhoods. So here is a breakdown of all the applications that are absolutely in contention right now. So viable candidates, there are now 54. We had 5 people submit who were ineligible. Based on the fact that they did not reside in any of the 9 neighborhoods. People from as far away as Jeffersonville, Indiana, because they grew up in the West End, our old Louisville, were really excited about participating. But, given the parameters that we have, they just weren't eligible for these seats. We also had a couple people submit twice, which shows their enthusiasm. And then I'm just making note for some of the nominators, you're going to see people who live at the same physical address but submitted separate applications, right? So there's at least 2 instances of that. Let's see, what else do I have here? Um, Let me skip and go on and talk about the revised scoring evaluation and how this fits into your deliberation. Um, you know, we set out trying to lay out some fair and objective criteria and devise, a scoring mechanism. But I want to make this as plain as possible to say that the scoring mechanism does not determine or should not determine your final recommendation, right? It's really a way to compare candidates based on, different aspects of who they are and how they're situated in community, right? So we had several desirable professional expertise categories, including things like, education and academia. And so, to the best of our ability, if people sort of hit on one of those nodes, um, they got, points for that. In your tables, the sheets that you're looking at, in the professional expertise section, I've tried to call out in blue, who's, hitting on that professional expertise that we included. There are many more professional expertise that have been submitted, right? But just to justify where that point total is coming from, I've tried to highlight those in your tables in blue. And then business ownership, with the push for creating and sustaining Black wealth, we wanted to emphasize and seek out potential board members who own and operate businesses. Because we are working in the built environment, people that have a physical location are being highlighted here. So if you own a business, that's 10. If you own a business with an actual physical location, that's an additional 10 points. Quite a few of the applicants, I believe, are in a live work scenario where they do business out of their home. For example, home based daycares, right? Or other types of consulting services where people see clients at their home. That's 15. But if you own a business and you own like your home and you own a commercial building, that's what accounts for the 25 points. We are prioritizing renters in this because those voices are often overlooked and discounted. So that explains, the vast majority of applicants are owners. But again, we want renter representation on the board if possible. Years of residency should be pretty straightforward. Um, because of the mechanism in the online application, some people put it, but we weren't necessarily sure what the units were. Some people answered in months, some people answered in years. So we did our best to gauge that appropriately. Um, we had talked about the board prior experience serving on a board of directors, and so there's many ways that people can sort of demonstrate that experience. For example, I'm in a sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, and we follow parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order, right? But then there are other, like, nonprofit boards, other types of organizations or entities that refer to themselves as boards but don't necessarily operate under the same principles. So this category is probably the most difficult to score. I did my best to be as generous as possible. But certainly, again, these are judgment calls that I'm making based on the responses and the specificity of people's responses. So if someone's clearly, if they're known to have clearly served on sort of a conventional or traditional board, that's 15. If they're a member in a civic organization or a sorority or anything like that, that's 10. And if they, talked about volunteering, that was 5. Ethnicity, we had, I believe, one candidate submit as biracial, and that was something that I guess we didn't, as a committee, talk a lot about. But because of some of the statutory requirements, excuse me, the statutory requirements, this is required to be, a majority BIPOC, that is Black, Indigenous, or People of Color board, if not Black. Rita will help us gauge that. And then we're asking about, sorry about that. I'm all over the place today, sorry. We're asking about age and generation. And so we are prioritizing younger candidates, particularly those between 18 and 30. With that, let me call on Miss Rita Phillips. And I see Jennifer Hancock has just joined us. Hi, Jennifer.
Good morning, everyone.
Rita, could you help us review the statutory requirements just so we're all kind of working with the same baseline?
Absolutely, absolutely. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you great, Rita.
Yes.
Okay, great. So everyone has access to House Bill 321, which is the outlines the requirements for the West End Opportunity Partnership as in addition to the West End Louisville Advisory Council. And that's the official name of the advisory council. And the West End Louisville Advisory Council is an official subcommittee of the West End Opportunity Partnership. And it's section, and House Bill 31 is section 7, and it's very brief. So let me just refer to that because it talks about the makeup of the advisory council. And the statute says that the council is hereby established and shall be a subcommittee of the West End Opportunity Partnership. And it identifies where it is in this section, and that the council shall consist of one resident from each of the 9 neighborhoods, which Gina has already indicated, located within the development area. And that, of course, would be the 9 neighborhoods that we are working today to have one representative from. The members of the council shall serve 4-year terms, except the initial appointments shall be for the terms as follows. Now I'm going to identify that, and we'll get this information posted as well. And please know that the initial appointment of these 9 neighborhood members are coming from Governor, from Governor Beshear. And then going forward, the committee will select its own members. So we will have 2 members for a term of 1 year. We will have 3 members, and this is of the total of 9. We will have 3 members for a term of 2 years. We will have 3 members for a term of 3 years, and we will have 1 member for a term of 4 years. And as I just stated, the governor shall initially appoint the members of the council, but then the council shall self-perpetuate. And just this little tidbit will round out this section on the council. The council will elect its own chairperson and establish other officers as needed to execute the duties of the council. The council will adopt its own bylaws and operate under those bylaws. The council will establish and evaluate goals and outcomes for economic development and housing issues in the development area. So we're talking about engagement there. And finally, the council will assist the board with information about the development area and community and its economic development and housing project needs. Now, those are the specific points identified in the statute. And again, at this point, the governor has appointed 6 of the 9 members for this advisory council. We are in need, and I'll take the liberty as I close out right now to say that we do need 3 more names or 3 more people. And if anyone knows, please get that information to me. I have been asked to help provide some more recommendations to the governor to round those 3 out. And I'll have to look and see before this meeting is over which 3 neighborhoods we still need that for. And I think, Gina, I think we're good. The member between 18 and 30, as long as that member is on the board of directors. There's nothing specific about that for the advisory council. And of course, you did also mention that the West End Opportunity Board by statute is designed to be Black-led or based on the racial majority of the district, I should say. And with that, that pretty much covers it.
Thank you for that overview, Rita. I see a hand up from John Mays, please.
Hey, thank you very much for the overview. Greatly appreciate it, and thank you for the work and the opportunity to be on here. I just had a question on these 9 members from the neighborhoods, will they have full voting privileges like the ones who are appointed from the governor? So that they're elected differently, but they'll still have the same rights and still have the same level of influence on decision making as everybody else.
That is
Absolutely.
correct.
Okay.
On the board, not the advisory council. So I just want to make sure there's no confusion on that. All the board members will have voting privileges. The advisory council will just be in that role to help support what I just went over relative to being a formal subcommittee of the West End Opportunity Partnership.
Oh, okay. All right.
But the role that we're in today, let me be really clear.
Yeah.
Today, these nominating groups are helping to identify the 9 board members from the community who will serve on the West End Opportunity Partnership Board. And when they are appointed, selected, and brought onto the board, they will have every voting privilege, every board privilege that everyone else on the board has. So there is no distinction between one and the other. They serve as fully vested members of the board like everyone else would.
Right. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I think I understand, but I think it got a little complicated for me. I'm like, maybe if it got complicated for me, it got complicated for others too. So I'm gonna attempt to reiterate it if I can, and then you can let me know if I'm not getting it right. But is it so we are here to elect the advisory board who's going to become board members, or we're here?
That was my John. Let me jump in. Let me put my hand up. I am totally sorry. I totally missed that. I had 2 things going here. I was talking about the advisory council. I made that confusion. Let me correct myself. Gina asked me to speak to what we're here for today. I confused that. So we're here for the 9 neighborhood members for the West End Opportunity Partnership Board, not the West Louisville Advisory Council that I read. That was totally my mistake. I think I'm still medicated from my procedure yesterday. So my apology, you all, on that. So yes, we're looking at the up to 21 members that will have full voting privileges. One of those board members, it is required by statute to be between the ages of 18 and 30. That is correct. And this board by statute is designed to reflect the racial makeup of the district. And the district is the 9 neighborhoods that that are identified here. So again, my apologies. I was on the advisory council. I was not on the board. So I want to clarify that. My apologies to the committee and to you, Gina. Sorry.
Sure, just to take it a step further, not only are you all making recommendations to seat the 9 full board members, we as a board are operating on interim bylaws. So once we have all of the board members seated, we will take another review of our bylaws. And for example, I'm not saying this would happen, but perhaps, there's been some concern about the fact that there's more institutional members than there are neighborhood members. It is perfectly within our power as a board collectively to maybe put, some parameters on specific types of votes that elevate the opinions of the people who actually live in the 9 neighborhoods, right? So yes, they absolutely have the same powers and authority. We'll be voting to install officers at that point. So it'll be almost like a new beginning once we have everybody fully accounted for, Mr. Mays. I hope that clarifies.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Okay, great. Okay, so now let's get into some of the weeds. I'm going to share my screen again. And I really want to check in with everybody who's on the call, and particularly think about those who aren't on the call today, to make sure we've got the people right and that everybody on who's agreed to serve as a nominator is comfortable with your current assignment. So let me go back to our big table here. Let's see. Okay, so bear with me. It's kind of like a U of L win. Sometimes it's sloppy, but as long as it gets the job done, I think we're all okay. What you see here, again, is the applicant spread across the various neighborhoods, and then the nominating committees as I understood them. Now, I could be wrong, and if we need to make adjustments, we can absolutely do that. But I'm going to start by pointing out that people whose names are in bold, like Miss Sandra Hughes, Kara Mackey, Tiffany Johnson, David Duncan, and Gerald Joyner, are appointed by the governor to serve on the advisory council that Rita gave us an overview of. So that's why their names are in bold. They are operating in an official capacity. We're trying to get them as involved as possible. The other names are people who stepped up and indicated in some way, shape, or form that they were willing to review the application. So, sort of as a roll call and a check-in, Miss Dreama Jackson, are you with us today?
Present.
Okay, and then Adrienne Johnson, are you present or with us today? All right, and is Miss Hughes here today? All right, Dreama, you're good to go. Is there anything shocking from being tied to these two neighborhoods? I know you were in our previous meeting where we combined committees, so I'm assuming that you're good to go on that front.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay. So then for Chickasaw, Miss Kara Mackey, are you with us today? Marty Davis or Terry Mitchell? Okay, moving on to Park Duval, Tiffany Johnson, are you with
Good
us?
morning. Yes,
Good
ma'am.
morning. Is there anything that looks out of place here? We've got Crystal Jones and Tia Jackson that'll be joining you. Is Miss Jones and Miss Jackson, are y'all here?
Miss Jones is here also, but I was also Governor Bashir appointed as well. My name is not highlighted in both.
Oh, okay. So for which neighborhood? For
No, I wasn't appointed for the neighborhoods, but I was appointed for the council.
right. So you're appointed for the council based on neighborhood, right?
I don't believe that it was based on neighborhood, but I don't know.
Miss Johnson, were you you were appointed by the governor, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it neighborhood specific for you?
It was.
And that was for Park Duval?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Crystal, I'll confirm yours here shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, then we combine Park Hill and Parkland. Is Joy Ritchie with us today?
Yes, I'm here. However, I do reside in the Park Duval neighborhood.
Okay. Joy is in Park Duval. All right. Thank you for that clarification. Tamika Jackson or Lisa Wilson, are you with us today?
I'm here, Miss Gina.
Is that Miss?
Lisa. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we've got you down, I noticed, for both Park Hill, Parkland, and Russell.
So initially, I was for Russell, and on the last communications meeting that we had, Parkland was short a person. So since I originated from that neighborhood, also I volunteered to do both.
Thank you for
Okay.
raising your hand for that, Ms. Wilson. We appreciate
Yes.
that.
And you're comfortable with that, correct?
Yeah, I'm from both neighborhoods, so I'm.
Okay. All right. Portland, Rick Thomas, are you with us today?
I'm here.
Thank you for joining us. And sorry for the typo, Mr. Stoss, Larry Stoss.
Yes, Larry Stess.
Okay, thank you for joining. And Judy Schroeder.
I'm here.
All right. Okay, so everybody comfortable, and I guess this is, like I said, no surprises for anybody on the Portland aspect of things. And then for Russell, we've got Miss Wilson. Is Mr. Duncan here with us today? All right. And then for Shawnee, Gerald Joyner, are you with us today?
I am struggling to get off mute.
Okay, thanks. Pat Matheson.
I am.
Wonderful, wonderful. Welcome. And then Mr. Mays has already asked a question, so we know he's here. Okay, so we got a little bit more sorting out to do, but I just wanted to also emphasize the bottom half of this table are the names of people who gave their consent to be listed and let it be known to the general public that they are pursuing membership on the board. So, out of all the submissions, about half of the people were able to give me that confirmation. If they did not confirm, they are not listed here. You know, this is a public meeting. It is being recorded and will be made available to the public, but we were trying to be responsive to community's concerns about knowing who was in contention, right? So these are the names, but it doesn't represent all of the names. And then with this, I guess we need to go into some expectations. Let me stop sharing here. And I guess can you give me some idea? I've been struggling with emails, for example, getting the right email for the right people, phone numbers and things like that, making sure that everybody on each committee has the contact information for one another. So if any of that's missing and you're on and you feel comfortable doing a direct message to other members of your committee, please feel free to do that. But otherwise, I guess I'm trying to get a sense. I sent out information yesterday evening with people assigned to various committees. You should have gotten the overview that I just shared, as well as a nominators packet with several forms in it, and then all of the application information for your group. Um, I guess if, maybe by a show of hands or emoji, did anybody not receive what I'm talking about? Like if you're on a committee, is there anybody on the call now who did not receive that information? So I'm going to take that as a sign that most, if not everybody who's on this call has that packet. And that's what we want to go into next, right? So let me see, just one second. See, there's a note that Crystal Jones was appointed by the governor for Parkland. Is that right?
I'm in,
Correct.
mhm.
According to the letter from the governor's office that I'm looking at, we have you down from Parkland from November the 2nd, 2021 until 9/29/2025.
Okay.
But if that's incorrect, get with me offline and I'll make sure that we get you connected back to the folks at the governor's office, if that's not correct. But this is a letter from the governor's office to us, a copy of it.
I believe that is correct. Yeah.
Do you live in Parkland?
Well, I'm on the border of Parkland and Park Duval,
Okay.
right dead center on the border.
I just put a link in the chat to the nominators packet, which will address even some of what just came up. Let me see. Let me share screen again. So in vetting everybody's application, I went through several points of verification. One, verifying the actual neighborhood. The neighborhood boundaries can be quite different from the way people circulate and move about neighborhoods. So if anybody that's on the committee or anybody in general wants to go and look at, what it says about a certain street location or address, you can go to the neighborhood map, put in an address of any kind within Jefferson County, for example, and it will give you data on where that address is located. For example, I live in the Limerick neighborhood. Excuse me, just 1 second. Just 1 second. I'm sorry, somebody is banging at my door. Please bear with me.
And what Gina does that, I will say, part of what we looked at was trying to figure out not only exactly where everyone was geographically situated, because boundaries do get a little blurry from time to time. And as much as we want to try to make this as an exact science, recognizing that we do have a shortage of neighborhood nominators in some committees, we took the liberty to accept the fact that some people may exist just beyond certain borders, but do operate, know, and understand the community that we're asking them to be a part of us helping to vet candidates for. So I just want to be clear about that when we talk about where people live, as much as we'd like to make sure that this is an exact science and people are squarely in those neighborhoods, just like Crystal, we recognize she's on the border. There will be some cases where people may bleed over those borderlines. And for the purposes of nominating members for the board, we felt like that was not a deal breaker.
Thank you. Sorry about that interruption. Also, we scored points for home ownership versus rental, right? And so when people say that they're an owner, there's a way to verify that also through Logic Online. The links are available in this document if you're interested. So again, if I use myself as an example, I can go here and you can see clearly that it shows my name. Oops, sorry. Darn it, lost it. It shows my name as the owner here. Everybody see that? So that's just a verification of ownership, property ownership, either by an individual or a business. It will show up on the basic Logic Online map. These are free tools that are available to you. I highly recommend that you bookmark and save these because they do come in handy for all sorts of reasons. Then there's also Google Maps, which can give you a street view, and then the My Louisville address lookup. Again, is another way to confirm. If you go to the very bottom, well, maybe not. Oh, address lookup here, and you put in an address. This also confirms your zip code, your official neighborhood, your political representation, all of these things that can be helpful in just understanding what the official register says as opposed to, again, how we may do it informally. All right. Any questions about those links? All right. So if we get back to our agenda, principles of, well, let's skip. I know Jennifer's on here, and we were going to talk about some of the nomination guidance, and I think it's important to emphasize this before we get into the actual work. So I've already tried to affirm that everybody that's participating today and that was called out as part of the nominating committee is comfortable and clear with their assignment. We also are sensitive to the fact, of guarding people's private information, particularly while they're candidates and not an official member of the board. Jennifer, could you maybe give us a few words about, our, I guess, values and expectations regarding people's information and the forms that we have here?
Sure. Thanks, Gina. And good morning again, everyone. I want to begin by thanking all of you who are taking on the responsibility to be a nominator. I think this is one of the most important tasks that we've had so far to date. And we have spent a lot of time thinking carefully about a process that honors community and honors your voices in this process. We also know that part of the responsibility that you're taking on will expose you to some private information that candidates would not necessarily want to have shared publicly, such as their dates of birth, their home addresses, etc. So we have a confidentiality and a non-disclosure agreement for you here. It's pretty straightforward and simple, and asks you to sign in support of keeping confidential all the information that you will be privy to through the application process. So we're asking each of you to complete this as you officially take on the duty of nominator. And then we've also put together a form for you as you are reviewing candidates and considering who it is from your neighborhood that you wish to nominate to the board, actually back to the nominating committee of the board. We have this form for you. Each of you will be given it as a way to document your reasons for the nomination. So we've asked you to please explain the key strengths of the nominee, how the rubric that you will have access to played a role in your decision. We're not suggesting that the rubric be the only factor in your decision. In fact, we use that as a way to gather some objective data, but want you to also have your subjective opinions that are critical to this process determine your nominee. And then explain how the nominee will add value to the board. And then we're going to ask that you sign those, date that, and return all of those forms to Rita Phillips by March 18th. And that's so the nominating committee has a couple of days over that weekend to review all of your forms. And then this body is convening on March 21st, Monday, March 21st at noon. And we're going to have a working lunch where we review all of the forms that have been submitted and ultimately take a vote as a committee to nominate 9 people to the full board when it meets on the following Monday, March 28th, if I have that date right. Yes, Monday, March 28th. So we're moving towards this timeline of being able to have a fully constituted board at the meeting on Monday, March 28th. So let me see if anyone has any questions about the timeline or the NDA or the document that we're asking you to complete.
I just had one question. It wasn't necessarily on the regard of the process that you shared. I think it was very clear, so appreciate that. But it was, will we have an opportunity to talk to these candidates by chance or speak to them in any different way as the
That's the next subject we're about to spend the rest of the meeting on.
Okay, got you. And I'll forego to that moment. And then the other one is this process was great to understand it for our purposes, you know, but what I've become increasingly aware of is the misconceptions that can happen in a neighborhood. And so, you know, do people understand? And so the communication plan of how this information or how people are being selected is going to be communicated out so that, you know, I think we all have our own personal reputations too. You know, it's like, you know, a user part of such and such. All right, well, you know, that people understood what it was about and that it was very clear and they had easy avenues to be able to access that information. So in between the time of now and the time that they would be selected, is there a plan to be able to communicate this? And if so, what would that be like?
I think you raised a very valid point. We recently established a communications committee. Dr. Don Wade is leading that committee, and we most certainly circle back to them via Rita to let them know of that, you know, interest and concern and suggestion. So we can't speak to that necessarily, but it's a valid point, and I think it's well taken. So as for the forms, you should have received a PDF version by email. If you would prefer to deal with the form digitally, the link in the chat, you have access to the very same forms. So, you know, if you want to print them out and handwrite on them, If you want to type them in and print them, there's so many different ways to do it. We just wanted to make sure you had full access to whatever's most convenient for you. Okay, and like I said, we've got about 10 minutes left in our hour. I can stick around if necessary, but sort of jumping back into your deliberations. Yes, we are perfectly comfortable with you using the contact information that you have in the applications to reach out to the candidates. Are we saying that we want you to contact all of them? We're not saying. We're leaving that up to the neighborhood committees. Hopefully, I would expect you recognize some of the names, but you very well may not. After you look at the credentials, the way that people scored in the rubric, as well as the personal information, Mr. Romaine, you are not on mute. If you could mute, please. Thank you. Um, uh, if you are compelled to reach out to them, we are perfectly comfortable with you doing that. In fact, another key feature of your application tables, anytime you see a word that's bracketed by greater than, less than, like the sideways arrows, that means I've done my best to confirm that information via the links that I just touched on. So ownership, right, or business building ownership. For those business owners who say, who told us and shared with their businesses, I went to the Kentucky, oh, that's another link I should include, the Kentucky Secretary of State, where all businesses and nonprofits are required to register. Some people made note of businesses that I could not find on the Kentucky Secretary of State website, and I make note of that. Or there may be, say, a different owner showing up in Logic in the property value administrator's records, that say a different person or entity owns a property as opposed to the applicant. In those cases, I have made note in the table. So in situations like that, if the committee is compelled to pursue verifying and pinning down that information, please feel free to do so. To me, that would be the primary reason for reaching out to the candidates. But if there are other questions, that are not addressed by the application itself, that you want to pose to potential candidates, especially if you're contacting more than one, I would suggest that you ask the same types of general questions, right? So there's specific questions to verify what's in the application. Then there's general questions that should be consistent across all the people that you reach out to. If you feel like there's something missing or some added detail you'd like to know. Otherwise, there are things generally regarded as inappropriate to ask people during interviews. Now, because this isn't a job interview per se, people did submit their date of birth. That's because we have a statutory requirement to have somebody or attempt to have somebody between 18 and 30 years old. Otherwise, in a professional, scenario, that wouldn't be an issue. But most of that sensitive information should have been furnished in the application. There's a few instances where people did not respond clearly. So again, if you as a committee feel like you want to verify with that person just to make sure you're clear and that they're getting a fair evaluation, that's really, I guess, where we're coming from with regard to interviews. Let me pause there for a second and see if there's any reaction or questions or concerns about what I've said so far.
Gina, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I remember seeing someplace, probably from your desk, a balance of representation for the West End on the council that minimized or limited the number of business owners who were to be representative. Wasn't there some kind of pie chart that I saw that suggested that, it was You don't look like this is ringing a bell. So, yeah,
I mean,
okay.
we've got pie charts, but
I'm
they're
sure you
not.
have pie charts.
So we have pie charts like that show whether somebody owns a business without a physical location, owns a business with a physical location, but none of that's limiting. It was just summary data.
So you mentioned that there's some statutory requirements around age, but there weren't any about the balance between residents and business owners or residential business owners?
Everybody under consideration is a resident of the neighborhood they're applying for.
Correct.
They're not applicants by virtue of their business.
Understood.
Okay. So
And was there also any statutory requirements or limits around the number of business representatives?
not to my
On the
knowledge,
board.
but Rita,
Okay.
perhaps you could. Okay.
No.
President. Okay. No.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Beyond that, we are hoping that you all will share the principles of being objective whenever possible, or subjective when it makes sense. We're relying on you to use your gut, as well as more measurable measures. Again, so like you may think the most wonderful candidate might be somebody with the lowest score, and we're okay with that. That's why we're asking on the nomination form that you explain your recommendation. But we just hope that you share a sense of being inclusive, fair, so that everybody gets a fair consideration. I think I think it's important, especially if you're on a committee and you don't know one another, that you take some time to get to know one another and share, I guess, what you believe are your priorities and preferences. And that if you can come to some agreement on, what's most important in terms of criteria and factors, that'll be helpful, especially when you submit the nomination form. So 3 people are the people on the committee. We're asking you to submit one form, right, for one nominee. So we kind of need your consensus on that. And then I've already touched on how to handle the interview guidance. I see a hand up from Ms. Hawkins. Did you have a question? I can't hear you. You're on mute.
I'm mute. Okay. All right. Can you hear me now, Gina?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. How are you? I have a question just about the, I know you guys said that you're having a hard time placing people on the advisory board, correct? Which determine who sits on the actual board. Am I correct?
Not exactly.
Okay.
We thought it would make sense to invite the advisory board members to help. That's
Okay.
not a requirement. So
Okay.
they are volunteering, and it just so happens that they have gubernatorial appointments, but they're not responsible for this. We, the board development committee, are responsible. Is that clear or not so clear as mud?
Well, yes, ma'am. I mean, I was just asking, and the reason that I was asking, maybe to make more sense, I've been following this board and the development of the board since it started. So I was asking because even the 9 advisory people, I know the governor appointed some of them, but even those people that I guess that volunteered, correct? Because some of those names on the list of some of those neighborhoods, like how can they help assist to determine or identify who the candidates are, and they're not even in the neighborhoods. So so basically they're just serving as people to contact them, kind of get a feel for them, kind of get a gut. I'm just trying to get overall so they're basically not really representing the areas. They just kind of sitting there to help.
In some
Right.
cases, you
Okay.
are right.
Okay.
And that's what Devon and I were trying to express.
Okay.
It's not perfect. It's not the way we intended.
Right. I get
But
it. No. I get it. but I think that maybe that'll give some other people a little more clarity that these aren't, because a lot of times it's not people from the neighborhoods that actually come in those neighborhoods to help. So I get that. I'm not against that at all. I just kind of want a little clarity on, so really other people would know, and I would have that clarity myself on, these people may not be from the neighborhood. So just because you see their names on there, that doesn't mean that they represent those particular neighborhoods. Okay.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why this is an open meeting. We're
Okay.
recording it. It will be made available. People can refer back to, this conversation and all those good things. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Other questions, concerns, or suggestions as we wrap up here? All right. Well, I think, let's see, that's the only thing. The only thing that I think we've covered everything we plan to in today's session. March 18th is the date we're hoping to hear back from all of the committees. You all can take the initiative to reach out to one another. If you need assistance, say for example, setting up a video call, Rita Phillips is available to help you do that. And I see Miss Rita has her hand up. Yes, Miss Rita.
Gina, I got an email here shortly from, let me make sure I get this right, from Charlotte Powell. I think Charlotte is on the call, but she wants to clear up a point here. She is on the list, highlighted on the list as to assist with the applications in the neighborhood, but she has also submitted. Charlotte, are you there? Okay. She
Yes,
is
I am
also
here.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and speak? There you are, right there, right below
You're
me.
doing very well.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, as she's also submitted an application to be considered for the board. So she wants to make sure that that is not an issue, and she's confused about that. So I told her I would have you speak to it.
Okay, and Charlotte, I'm looking
Wow.
for you. I'm sorry. What's your
She's
full?
she's on the sheet under the Tiffany Johnson list.
Park Duval.
Hold on, let's take another look.
Charlotte Janet Powell, right, Charlotte?
That's correct.
Okay.
Just a second. Okay, now guide me to where the inconsistency
Okay,
is.
she's right there under third of the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. From your left, 4 columns over, 3 columns down in the blue.
Okay.
Charlotte Janet Powell.
Yes, and what's the concern?
Okay, but she's also filled out an application to be considered for the board, and then she's also on the nominators.
I don't see her as a nominator.
Okay, I got information regarding the nomination committee. So I wanted to just be clear where I was. And we can talk about that later so that you can move on with your meeting.
Yeah.
So you can move on with the meeting. We can discuss that at a more opportune time.
It may be an email confusion, right? But
yes, I got 2 emails, one for the board and one for the nomination committee. So I will get with you after this meeting.
Please, do you have my email and phone number?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thanks, Gina.
Sure thing. Okay. Again, let's see.
I'm sorry. Hi, this is Angela Bowens. I also am going for the board, and I also received 2 emails for nominating and the board. So I don't know if that's a mix up or what, but I also received that same information.
Okay. Yes, let's clear that up. And again, that's part of my challenge, matching email addresses with names, because a lot of our emails don't match our names. And as soon as we hammer that down, we'll get it all cleared up. But thank you for both you, Angela and Miss Charlotte, for raising those points.
Thank you, Gina.
Okay.
Gina?
Yes.
It's David.
Yes, please.
Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to say a couple things. First of all, I just want to recognize Gina and Devon and Jennifer and the crew. They have worked really hard to get to where we are. And I just want to say thank you for that. And then there was a question brought up by, I think, John Mays earlier about the board members, and there was a little confusion about that. And I just want to clarify. The board members, whether they are the ones that are there now or the ones that will be placed by you all for taking the time to go through this process to get them to the board, they all stand on equal footing. There's nothing that separates them from any other part of the board. It's one board, one level. Whether the board member is there because of the governor appointment or there because the board voted to put them there, everybody's the same. Their weight is the same. That can't be changed by anything because the state law is the only thing that can change that. So I just want everybody to understand that everybody is equal, okay? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Miss Williams, you have your hand up.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. So I was just going to say the exact same thing. I had submitted an application and I did see my name in the blue, but then I also got information about the advisory board. So if you could add me to that list as well, I guess to kind of sort out what is what and where I need to be and what emails and stuff I should be getting, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Will do. Please, thank you for bearing with us. And I just saw, was there another hand that disappeared? Okay. I'm going to add the Kentucky Secretary of State website, especially for to the Nominators online packet, the web resources, just in case that's helpful for you. And I think, let's see, Jennifer, Devon, any final thoughts, instructions?
Well, I just want to, again, like everyone else has said, thank those who've volunteered for this work. You can recognize that hopefully, while we do have the best of intentions to make sure that the community's involved in this process, it does require us to navigate in a way that is sometimes a little bit confusing, just kind of based on the way that a lot of this is laid out in the state statute, and then the levels of participation, meaning West End Opportunity Partnership Board, the West End Opportunity Partnership Advisory Committee, the Nominator committees. I mean, you've got 3 different levels of engagement here that we're talking about, and I recognize sometimes that gets a little confusing. Quite frankly, it got a little confusing for all of us in the very beginning. But I think we're getting to a place now where we will get this group engaged and involved in the process that will help us clear a very important hurdle, where we'll really be able to start to get to some work and talk less about kind of building this plan and really start to acting on a plan. So stick with us. I think we're almost there. And I recognize a little bit of the confusion around people, and several people have reached out to me and asked the question, and they've respectfully backed out of the process. These are people who have submitted their applications to serve on the board itself. And they recognize that because they've submitted an application to serve on the board, then it creates a conflict of interest for them to serve on the nominating committee. You can't submit to serve on the board and then participate on the nominating committee to determine who serves on the board. And so we recognize there needs to be some distinction between how that happens. And so that's part of this process of trying to clear that up. And I hope we made that clear today. If it's not clear, I think Gina, Jennifer, myself are all available to help explain that if there's a need to do more of that. So let me just say thank you. If it's still confusing, reach back out. We'll share more details to try to get this hammered out. But I think we're almost there. We're almost there. And by this time next month, I think we'll be in a much better place to start moving this work forward in ways that we are all looking forward to.
Jennifer, do you have anything, any last comments?
Again, thank you, and absolutely reach out to any of us along the way. We look forward to receiving your nominations on March 18th.
All right. Well, I hear, sorry, somebody.
I'm sorry, Gina. There's a question in the chat about what neighborhoods were the 3 additional people needed from? Ms. Williams, is that a question you had about when I got everybody confused on the front end when I was talking about the advisory council? Okay, and again, I do apologize for that. So those 3 particular neighborhoods is from California, Park Hill, and Portland. And what I'm giving her, you all, early on when I was on advisory council instead of the advisory board, those are the 3 neighborhoods that the governor still needs referrals from. And I'm thinking some of that may come from this process as these people are being vetted. So we're just trying to help to give them referrals on that. So those are the 3 neighborhoods that are needed. So thanks for asking that question.
Judy also raised the issue about connectivity amongst the committees. So the emails that went out yesterday was an attempt to connect you all by committee, but we obviously have some perfecting and to do with that. So if you as a committee need help, I know I've already been asked to follow up with a couple of you, but please reach out to myself, to Rita, Devon, if we can help get you connected and clarify some of that. We're here to help. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time and attention. I hear it's going to be nearly 80 degrees today.
Right.
I'm trying to get out there and enjoy it. I hope you do too, even if it's just sitting on your porch, right? So have a lovely rest of your day, and let us know how we can help and facilitate your process. Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you all.
All right,
Thank you.
bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.